Welcome back to Tony and Tina's Wedding, Creating a Theater Tribe, the podcast where we dive into the stories, the laughs, and the love behind building a family through off-Broadway magic. I'm Larry, the original director.
And I'm Gret, an actor from the Las Vegas cast. I'm thrilled to be a part of this journey and to share the incredible stories that brought Tony and Tina's wedding to life and kept it alive for so many years.
And I'm Concetta. I performed Tony and Tina's Wedding in multiple cities, and I'm excited to be here as we celebrate the heart of this show, the people.
Today, we're honored to welcome a very special guest, Joe Corcoran, the original producer of Tony and Tina's Wedding.
Joe has been instrumental in shaping the show from its earliest days, turning a simple idea into a beloved theatrical phenomenon.
And his unique vision and dedication helped create something truly incredible, a show that's not just about a wedding, but about bringing people together, creating memories, and building a community that feels like family.
If you've ever wondered what type of person would be crazy enough to produce something like Tony and Tina's Wedding,
you're about to find out.
Enjoy episode 5.
Today, I want to welcome Joe Corcoran to our Tony and Tina podcast. Joe, we developed this piece, I think I've told you, because the family of Tony and Tina has grown to become this enormous group of people. And of course, I do know that you are in touch with so many of them who are part of our Tony and Tina family over many, many, many years. And speaking about that, I would love to go back the American Legion Hall when you weren't producing and you were playing one of the characters.
Correct.
Yes. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, Mark Nasser and I were friends from Hofstra, and I knew a lot of the people from Hofstra, Nancy and Phil, and a bunch of the people, but more as acquaintances. Mark, I knew more intimately as a good friend. You know, they were always doing these experimental performances and stuff down in the East Village. And Mark had said that they were doing this wedding, that the audience would come as the guests. And so at that time, nobody was getting paid or anything, but it was just kind of like whoever was around, who was a friend, they kind of created a character, it seemed like, for them. So Mark said that you've been in plenty of weddings at that point, and so you know what to do. And so I said, sure, I'll do it. And so I did it. And it was a very interesting experience. I remember doing the rehearsals in Soho in that little space down there. And I was looking for my Wall Street job with a suit on. And it was very, very odd in that situation, you know, with these people and doing these little exercises and whatnot that I wasn't certainly not accustomed to.
Oh, gotcha.
So it was very interesting for me.
Suit by day, tuxedo by night.
Yeah, that's right.
Had you ever acted up until that point?
No, I never did. I never
Oh my
did.
God.
I never really had any desire to, but it was like something I just tried. But as soon as like I did it the first time, you know, I mean, I really didn't interact. Most of the people who came were people that I knew. It seemed like, because I sold a lot of tickets for it. You know?
Yeah.
It was like everybody had to sell a certain amount of tickets, but not everyone was able to. And so I basically called everyone I knew and said, you got to come. It's $20, whether you show up or not. And so I was surrounded by all my friends, and I realized that these were people that didn't typically go to a lot of shows. And even my family, occasionally every couple of years, when my parents took us to like the Christmas show, you know, to see the Rockettes.
Sure.
You know, I literally had not even seen a Broadway show before I had done that.
Wow.
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 It was, you know, quite the experience for me. But I did have a lot of experience producing parties. I did like ski trips in high school. I mean, I was always working from when I was 12 years old, delivering newspapers, selling raffle tickets, doing all sorts of stuff. So I was doing entrepreneurial things. And in high school, I was booking ski trips on buses. And I would fill up 3-4 buses full of people. You know, it turned out to be quite a party. You
So
know,
what's the secret? How do you sell things?
I don't know. I think I make friends, and then I say, "Let's go. You got to come along." You know.
Wow, yeah. You just
Oh,
like
so-
a party is what it is.
Yeah. So basically, I don't want to get too far off track, but
Of course.
I did things in college, entrepreneurial things like booking boat rides and booze cruises in college, and then I did them in the Circle Line. So I kind of understood the whole party aspect of it. I knew some party promoters. And so when I saw the show, I realized how much people really liked it and how much people were enjoying it. And they forgot that they were actually at a show. It didn't feel like a show. And so that was really what, the light went off in my mind. And it was like, there's really something here for this. If this group of people likes it, I know lots of people that like it.
Right.
I invited my mom, and she was like the experiment. If your mom likes it, lots of people like it.
I think the last time I saw your mom was in Tokyo when she came to see the show.
Oh my God, yeah.
Or-
People still think she's part of it. She's in the show.
Well, I
You know-
mean, she made herself part of it whenever
It sure did. She's going strong. She's 87 now.
Wow.
Wonderful, Joe. That's so
she's
great.
going.
And your father always had a great time.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
we did the tour, I always invited them to come, and they were like, Columbus, what? Just come. It's only 2 days. I'll pay for dinner and just come on out. And they spent a lot of time in Chicago when we did the show there. And so a lot of people in Tony and Tina world know my parents because
Yes.
they've been around a lot,
Yeah. Yeah. So, Joe, you did this introductory production and you were working as a stockbroker.
Yeah.
And then Mark Nasser and you started to think that maybe you could raise the money to
Yeah.
actually produce the show because we did the two at Carmelitas. Was that a big step for you to say, I'm going to raise the money to do this?
Well, I actually raised all the money in one weekend, like in 2 days.
Of course you did.
My brother, who I got him this job, and I remind him to this day, it was the job that I would have loved to have. My good friend was running a brokerage firm. They were trading like treasury bonds and stuff, but it was like a broker. I mean, it's just in the financial area. And he had to work the midnight shift. And so there wasn't a lot of going on. So the party always began at midnight at their place if he was still out. You know what I mean? And my friend's company got bought by another company that had an office in London. And so they offered my brother and like 10 guys to go over there, and they paid him a lot of money. They got him cars and they got him apartments, and they all were spending money like drunken sailors over there. I went over there, and they were all probably like in their early 20s. And I just basically got them all to commit the money to, we only raised $125,000, Larry. That's
Shocking.
You did that in 2 days?
Yeah, 2 days. Yeah, well, one night, basically.
So
1 hour.
Yeah,
what a drink.
it was like
Was
fourth
after-
hour, actually. It was like
Fourth
fourth hour.
hour after all the booze.
Wow.
Yeah, it was in the fourth
That's
hour.
amazing.
Yeah,
That's
Yeah.
so impressive.
It really is. Talk about meant to be. My God.
it was meant to be, and strangely enough, this happened right before Air 103. Matter of fact, 3 of the people who had invested were on that plane and had died. And
Whoa.
also, I know that the lawyer for artificial intelligence,
George Chang's wife was on that.
wife
Yes.
was on that. I'm very, so we lost a few people. I had just left London 2 days before that. It was right before the holidays.
Thank you.
Wow.
This is the Lockerbie.
The Lockerbie. That's
Right.
right. Exactly.
Wow. I did not know that story that
Yep.
had
Yeah.
a connection to Tony and Tina's. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. In several ways. Well, through 2 totally different, way to investors and also from.
Yeah, our lawyer, his name was George Xinsheng, and I just saw George a couple years ago because his daughter Emma had a play produced in New York, and I went to see it. And I looked at him and I thought, wow, because Emma was so young when his wife died in that plane crash. And I remember going to that because it was right before Christmas, wasn't this?
It was. It was.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was right before Christmas.
Yeah, it
And
was.
I went to a few, 3 different services.
Man, yes, I'm remembering all of this now. I mean, point in fact here is that is a long time ago.
I don't think we had cell phones then because I remember I was told that I was at a payphone on the Upper West Side. I was at a restaurant and I
Oh.
heard, I was calling somebody and they told me about it. I said, oh my God, I can't believe it. And that's when I first got notified of it. But
I remember it well. I mean, the thing is that you had to have dimes. Okay. 'Cause it was 10 cents for a call then. So,
quarter
you know,
got stuck.
always-
Quarters got stuck.
Yeah, because I was like always saving change, but the breadth of this show is so large. So can you raise this $120,000 and you said, okay, I'm going to produce Tony and Tina's wedding.
Yes,
I mean, what drugs were you on at that
I was on a lot of drugs probably back.
You were not.
You were not, he says.
I wasn't, but I just saw that this is a party and let's jump on board and do something like this. And I was able to get people excited about it.
But I mean, Joe, really, there was a certain amount of naivete that was on your side, because who the hell would do a show with like 30 actors, 2 spaces, food, a live band?
Exactly. I mean, I always said if later on somebody had told me about it, I would have said, forget it. I'm happy. It'll never work.
But I think that that's one of the things that really worked so much for Tony and Tina's wedding is that we didn't have any idea really what we were creating. We just were creating.
Yeah.
And moving forward step by step, everything got completed so much, not at the last minute, I guess as things do, but I do remember the day we were going to open at Gus's, we left and Billy or somebody was still painting the bar when we left to go to the ceremony.
My cousin Joe Morgan, who were very unreliable, like, get over here, because there was so much stuff to be done. He was literally still hammering nails when people were at the church.
Oh my God.
Yes.
And painting.
That was walked in. I remember saying to the girls, don't go near the bar for a while.
Exactly.
Okay? It's dry. The paint is dry.
Imagine if they had paint on their costume.
Yeah. And crazy enough, Gus was trying to, this is now past tense, so it doesn't matter. But I mean, Gus was helping us to get a liquor license up for upstairs. It was connected to downstairs. And so we had got to see this lawyer that Gus had recommended. And Gus and I were meeting all the time with Leonard, with this lawyer who was downtown. And every day it was supposed to come through and it was supposed to come through. And like the day that the show came, we still didn't have the official license yet, and we decided that let's just try it one night and let's see what happens. And then that happened. That went on for like 3 or 4 months that we still didn't have the license. And cops and firemen there and all sorts of people. I mean, we could have been closed down, but
Yeah.
figured I knew enough firemen and cops that we could have probably held them off. But we weren't going to not serve liquor, you know what I mean? Because that was really what was part of adding to the fun, a lot of it.
I mean, I think that gave the show its energy in some ways for the audience, because at that time, the audience was much more uptight than an audience today about this interactive world and about kind of being involved. Nobody had really done it up to that point.
No, and even when the New York Times did the review, it's more like a book report. Yeah, I mean, there was really nothing to compare it to.
Right, there was nothing.
There wasn't anything like it out there. So they talked about the bridesmaids and they walked up the aisle and they were snapping gum and this and that, but there was no kind of critical, there wasn't really, and when it was a big story too, but
It was. Wasn't like, and the bridesmaids, we didn't believe them when they were chewing their gum. There was none of that in that review.
yeah. But it really became like a media darling and the television people loved it. And we've got a lot of people to cover it. And it looked like so much fun when they would show those clips of people dancing and laughing and having fun and the audience interacting with the characters. So it really snowballed, became like a really hot ticket.
Well, I mean, it was sold out for months and months and months.
I mean, and we only had about 140 seats or so. I mean, of course, I tried to get 200 in there, but we couldn't quite get that many chairs in there.
Well, we couldn't, but we stuffed wherever we could because I actually think that people, when they go to Tony and Tina's wedding, would rather be shoulder to shoulder than in this spread out kind of feeling, because when you're shoulder to shoulder, you don't feel as exposed as an audience member.
Yeah.
That's why, I mean, I was never in favor kind of like these big rooms with tall ceilings. I always loved the small rooms with the lower ceilings. We just had Joe Dallo and Lorraine Britta on for another episode, and we were talking about that Philadelphia space, which was so amazing.
Oh, Toronto's, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
It
They
was,
heard a mob hit downstairs in the place, in the restaurant downstairs. That was like during all the mob wars were going on, at the time. I heard about it. I was like, oh shit, I hope it's not going to affect the show. You know,
it made it better.
I was gonna say maybe.
That's like really an interesting point, though, that Tony and Tina's was developed at a time where social media was non-existent, right? And a lot of times nowadays you get oversaturated with a new show because you see it on Facebook, you see it on Instagram, you see it on YouTube, you see it on any streaming service or something like that. And Tony and Tina's had none of that. So it was really kind of all word of mouth in the
Yeah,
beginning.
and
until
stories.
that big article came out, right?
Right.
And there were TV stories. Every news
Right.
station covered it,
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
they came to the wedding. They were filming people at the wedding. I mean, I don't know what really sold it. Anyway, Joe, so we do have a guest that we'd like to bring on to talk about those beginning days, and you know him well, and his name is Mark Nasser.
oh,
So
God.
let's bring on Mark. I'm going to let Mark take over because this is what I love about having Mark on the show. Because Mark, you have great energy.
Enough about me. What do you think about me? You know what I mean? That's all I can say.
What do
all
I
right?
think about? I love you.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your relationship during that time, because I know that, Mark, you were very responsible for pushing Joe during that time as well.
Well, he was the only one that would listen. We go, oh, geez, is this what you got me into? Holy shit, But as a friend, a dear friend, and still a dear friend, it couldn't have been a better time for us. We took on a challenge. It was new to us as far as producing, and now producing this show I'm doing now. I got to say, I really respect what Joe did in even a broader way, because producing is underrated. It's so much headache and challenge every day. And it's not the fun part of going and doing a show, And one of the great things Joe did, I think, as far as Tony and Tina's wedding, was putting a team together. David Rothenberg, Carol Levine, the general manager was amazing.
Leonard.
And Leonard. And it was just all pro, and it was really done professionally. And also, when things were running for a while, bringing in celebrities to, Lee Mazzilli. I'm like, hey, Lee, why are you sitting at the bar? You're supposed to be working with the audience. It all went crazy. What was the guy, the boxer?
Vito Antuofermo. Yeah, there's the stories to all of these people. People were scared to death of Vito. He was a dangerous looking character. And I think they wanted him to get out. Kevin was trying to put things in his shoe, and I was trying to, don't mess with him. It's the guy's a champion boxer. Don't get him angry. And he only interacted with me really so much, not so much everybody else. The cast was out to get him and wanted him fired. And I was like, he didn't do anything. He's not getting fired. He didn't do anything. And he's just fine, except that he forgot that he was playing a character and would sign his name as Vito Antuofermo. You know what I mean? During the show. But he was one day coming home from the show. He was sitting in the subway, taking the subway home, but he apparently had a gun in his sock, and somebody saw it, and a cop took him off the train, and they called in reinforcements. But they ended up taking Vito in and arresting him, and we got a little mention in page 6. They asked him for a comment, and he said, I'm not commenting on the arrest, only my acting career.
So you got a bump from that too, right?
Talk about no bad
that was
press.
exciting about
No
that.
bad press.
That's when the cast and equity had the ammunition to say, this guy was bringing a gun to the into that little tiny dressing room. You know what I mean? And he's got to go now. So
People are so sensitive. I don't get it.
I'm not. What's the big deal? Right?
I remember
No,
running down the stairs behind him, over at Gus's. We were going up and down those stairs sometimes, and he stopped short for some reason. And it was like running into a wall. He was solid. He was a beast.
Yeah.
But Kevin putting the quarters in his shoes, and he just got crazy. And Kevin thinks it's funny, but I think he confronted Kevin, right? Physically, if I remember.
So, and they were all afraid of him. And Susanna was playing the opposite. She was scared to death of him,
She was. And she's scared of nothing.
Yeah, well, after being married to Stuttering John, I mean, come on, you've done it all
Yeah.
already. I mean,
Ups.
Joe, I know that we also had a very famous soccer player do the show.
Yeah. Yeah. Tony Miola.
Yeah.
Tony Miola was great. And the nicest guy in the world, really, just so kind to everybody. Everybody loved him. Yeah, he was like the World Cup goalie for the USA team.
Yeah, and I remembered that down there at that time, it was like ESPN. I mean, all of these places that had never reviewed Tony and Tina's wedding
Yeah.
were coming out to see it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, between Mazzilli and him, we had all the sports people were in there. Mom Albert and all of these people that were on television all the time that never spoke about theater, but they were when they went down to see Lee Mazzilli or Tony Viola.
How did those hires happen? Did their people reach out to you or did you guys reach out to them?
I kind of found out about it somehow and then reached out to them. I mean, Stutter and John was a funny one because we'll make this a long story, but the first time I met him, I was introduced to him to a friend. He wanted to get into acting, and I thought he'd be great in Tony and Tina, So I met him down at Gus's one time for dinner. He was stuttering like you can't believe it. I mean, he couldn't get a sentence out. And I was thinking to myself, this is fantastic. It's going to be great. The two played Barry, the best man, right? And I thought, he's stuttering through this every night, And unfortunately, once he gets comfortable, he doesn't stutter. I remember his manager, I forget his name right now, but we kind of became friends. And he called me about 6 months later, once for John's contract was over. And it wasn't a big contract, believe me. He wanted to get more money for John. And I said, the problem is that I had Stuttering John, and all I got now is John.
yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so he wasn't a big draw, but basically what I was buying was his plug at the end of the show. Like all of the people had a plug, like Stutter and John opening up a strip club in Las Vegas on Friday night, such and such. You know what I mean? And they would Stutter and John and Tony and Tina's wedding. And so.
Yeah, I think it gave Tony and Tina's wedding a boost.
10 years later, people were asking me, is Stutter and John still in the show?
Mark, how was Joe as Dominic?
Well, nobody played it more authentic than Joe. Okay. It was like, remember when we started, this is a great story. Actors weren't really understanding what we were trying to do. We didn't know what we were doing. You know what I mean? We didn't know yet until the audience came. So I just said to Joe, all you have to do is be in my wedding, because the first run was all improv pretty much. It's like, you just have to be an usher in my wedding. And then we brought in our friend Keith, who was also a roommate. And Keith, he played Keith, and he just sat at the bar all night. I don't think he even talked to anybody, but I don't have the photo, but there's a great photo of when they used to lift up Tony, give him the bottle. I mean, and there's a great shot of Joe just, leading the pack. You know what I mean? Joe does all kinds of crazy shit. What was it? The boat tours that we used to do?
Yeah. On Circle Line.
Yeah, we always push the limit. Like, hey, we're not supposed to have alcohol on the boat. We can't bring our own. And then I see a guy, wheeling in cases of beer. I'm like, what was it? What's that? Okay, yeah, don't worry about that. So Joe was a risk taker, so was I, and I think it was okay. Let's do it. You know what I mean? Don't worry about what happens in the end, but what a run for this. I think one of our finest moments, at least one of my finest moments, was opening night in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
I just saw with all those celebrities there. We thought we were in. I was done. Just name the movies you want me to be in, and I'll do it, But it was very exciting, very exciting. I have a great picture I put here. I don't know if I can share my screen, but that's opening night. 2 babies. We thought we were old, man. I mean, we thought we were already old because we'd probably been awake more hours than people that were like 70 years old.
Look at those handsome guys. My
I
goodness.
have it in my office.
I thought you were going to show up one with Kirk Douglas with your arm around him, like in a headlock.
Joe, this one's about you, okay? I mean,
All
this is
right.
your podcast. Like, I already got the warning already. You know what I mean?
Joe, I remember going out to Los Angeles with you and meeting Douglas Urbanski and looking for a space there. That space downtown, which was an incredible space, was just really in the wrong part of town.
Yeah. I mean, we had to have LA cops there, They told us, like, we need the police, hire policemen, which I thought, what's that all about, But people in Los Angeles are actually afraid to go down there, which I didn't. What we could being from New York, we didn't really understand that. So,
Yeah.
okay.
I was living up the street. I was living in the hotel in a little SRO room. You know what I mean? Because I was too lazy to walk downstairs. It's like, where are you living? Don't worry about it. You know what I mean? It was a crazy, crazy place. And,
Yeah, right across from MacArthur Park, which I think is still kind of sketchy, I think, in LA,
Oh, yeah.
that building that we were in was a magnificent Egyptian style building. It was so beautiful.
Fantastic.
There's a lot of movies that were shot on that stairwell that they had in there. It was a beautiful place. So it was a location for a long time.
Yeah. So the two of you, being such good friends, you both have become producers and continued to produce. Now, I know, Mark, that you talked to us about this, but do you enjoy writing more than producing? Or
I don't enjoy producing. I don't
Right.
really enjoy being a boss at all. You know what I mean? It's like, I'd rather come on in, write the thing, come in, act in the thing. I'm on time. I work hard, but I don't have to worry about myself. When you're dealing with, like the show I'm doing right now, 12 actors, security, cook, cleaning. I mean, you got 18 people just there, not counting the understudies and the producers from the Tenderloin. There's a lot to deal with.
Yeah.
And you're always dealing with personalities in this business, and that's just part of it. And that's, for me, the hard part. It's like, just do the fucking job. You know what I mean? That's what I want to say, but I got to go, try to be like Joe Corcoran, Hey, yeah, well, I guess they felt a little good. I think they're having a bad day. I don't know. Probably should to smoke pot more before. Yeah, it's all right. You know what I mean? It's like, forget about it. I mean, it's just not something I like to do, but it is rewarding in the end because that's how I get my shows done, And I know Joe probably had a lot of sleepless nights in this whole thing, but he always handles it with a lot of grace and a lot of,
Yeah, and still doing it. And
for people,
continuing. You haven't stopped. That it's still going out and we're still doing performances of Tony and Tina's Wedding in different places. So I just find it just so great. I know that Concetta has done some of those, and Mark just did the one in San Francisco. So it continues.
I was worried in San Francisco because I was like, I don't know if this is going to fly. You know what I mean? Because they're so sensitive about everything. And there's so many crazy things that are still being said in that show that are so politically incorrect.
Yeah.
But that place went crazy for it. It works. It just works. I don't know. It's crazy.
So in having relationships with these other producers, did they follow your mindset of what Tony and Tina's Wedding should be most of the time? Or did they always kind of go off on their own a little bit?
Well, I mean, we usually had either you and now in this case, Tony Laurie is there. So they're overseeing what's happening. So I know things are not getting out of control in any way. Most of the stuff that happens now is all through Samuel French, which is called Concord. I constantly get requests that I always say yes, almost 99.9% of the time that I say yes. So I don't even know what happens at these shows. Who knows what it is, but there are high schools and colleges and community theaters that are continuing to do the show, and they don't pay us much, but it's a continuation of
Right.
the legacy. It's keeping the name of the show out there and alive. And I wish we could do a reunion someplace, somewhere. I was fantasized if I had a real lot of money, I'd rent a really big place or in a field or something with an enormous tent and fly in everyone who can't afford to come in and just like throw the biggest party, a 3-day party of Tony and Tina people,
Yeah.
I fantasize about that.
People would come. People would come. You
I
wouldn't have to
know,
fly
I
anybody
know.
in. I mean, people would come.
The word would get out and then just try to facilitate that. but it's just every time I think about it, it gets bigger and
Well,
bigger, and I don't know how to do
Joe,
it.
Joe, I think what we should do is travel to each city where we've done the show and have a party there. Just
We can do
simple.
that. Mark,
You
you
and
want
I
to do that
will do
with me?
Chicago, we'll do San Francisco, we'll do LA. And, all these
Boston.
Tony and Tina's families, they,
Yeah.
because the show runs so long, they're around each other for a long time. And it's a beautiful diaspora, whatever you want to call it, of
Yeah.
Tony and Tina people. And I think that's one of the greatest gifts of the show, all the friendships, all the
Totally.
relationships. And
Yeah.
I mean, so many people go, hey, man, that was one of the greatest times in my life, because it doesn't matter what show you do, at least for what I've done, it's like Tony and Tina's is still the most fun to do. It's not even close. You know what I mean?
It
It's
is.
like, yeah, I can play a homeless guy who's having a nervous breakdown every night. Great, but when you go in as Nunzio, it's like, let's go. Let's be everything you can't be. Okay. So it's too fun.
Yeah.
Man.
So what do you think it is? What do you think is like the one thing that creates the camaraderie, creates the love, creates the party atmosphere, the thing that the audience members take away, never forget? What do you think that one thing is that happens during the course of the night?
Well, I think one of the reasons it's so successful is that the wedding is like an oldest ritual in the world. Everybody knows it. And then from the cast side, you're playing a family. It just kind of is a part of it, and all the improvs we do when we go bowling and we go to these events. I mean, that to me is a big part of it. That's where the camaraderie comes from. And we go out afterwards and we hang out, and then somebody else has a new project they're doing, and some people are doing that, and all these things grow from that. And when we did it the very first time, I remember going, "What the fuck is this?" We're in rehearsal, and Mark Campbell's doing tabloids of the family at tables. I'm going, "Oh no, I thought this was a good idea. This is going to be bad," And then we opened, and it was just like with the audience in there, and there was really barely a script. We just went through the rituals of a wedding, a New York wedding, and the people went nuts for it.
Yeah.
So it was a good concept.
Yeah, I want to go back to something that Joe said about where his background of what he was so talented at producing in that time. And it was a party, So I feel like, can you imagine what the difference would have been if like some standard uptight theater producer had come in who's used to producing stage shows? I can't imagine the trajectory the show might have taken if it was put in the hands of someone else.
Well, no real producer would ever do it.
And the fact that
Joe
his background was
Corcoran-
like, the bigger the better, the bigger the party, the better, and that there was no fear about that. It was just
It was
dive in.
It was kismet in many ways, because Joe had the right mindset, which was, let's have a party.
And the talent to know how to create that's a true talent. So, I mean, I want to give kudos to Joe for that, because I can't imagine how different it would have been.
Well, listen, it's so wonderful to talk to you, Joe, and thank you, Mark, for coming in, because I know that you're going to spark some memories in Joe. But Joe, you seem very cognizant of every single thing that's going on.
Oh God. And Mark and I talk about it constantly, whenever I see him, it's, it's always Tony and Tina stories that keep coming up. And every once in a while I hit a new one, Yeah. I mean, and so many people have so many stories that I haven't even heard. I want real quickly about Sue Varon when Joan Rivers came to the show, soon after her husband had committed suicide, and had like a heart-to-heart conversation about losing their husbands,
Yeah.
and only Susan experienced that, and Joan. And so I think there was so many moments like that. It gives me chills just to think about that. You know what I mean? And experiences that people had, like one-on-one with an actor, and I find out about it. They tell me about it, and it's really special. I think that people never forget that. Never forget that. And those are the special moments that I think really people remember most. And one thing I always just said, always thought about when I talked about the show, it's like, I just think it was simple, it was genius. It's just one of those things that was so obvious, but nobody ever did it. But when it would happen, everybody was like, God, why didn't I think of that kind of a thing? You know what I mean? And so
Right.
it was so brilliant in its own way, and the timing is right. And
Yeah,
But
but
really would not have become what it became if you hadn't allowed the people who were creating it to, because we were like, no, there's not going to be a marquee.
yeah,
I mean, most producers would be like, well, then we're not doing the show. But you were like, okay, I'll go along. Let's, and maybe you even wanted, I mean, it was like, I mean, I don't know.
But the only people that said don't do that we were saying to Joe, no, this is I looked at Gus's place and I go, this is can't. This room, no way, And we're pinning down the carpet like a half an hour before people are gonna come in. Wow. Some way it happened. It was the best place. I mean, it was just turned out amazing with the stairwell right up in the middle of the floor. I mean, it was
Oh,
What was
so
your
great.
favorite space ever? Do you have one?
I think upstairs at Gus's place.
I do too.
And I think Chicago was an amazing venue.
Yeah. Yep. But that space, Gus's place there, it was just because of the neighborhood. I mean, everything. It really was. There were all kinds of little nooks and crannies where Vinnie Black and his staff, an actor may have never seen them. An audience would never see that little area where Kevin was mixing the salad or whatever the hell they were doing back there if they didn't go to the bathroom. But it was a full-on part of the show.
Wow.
If you remember, the priest in Philadelphia was very handsome, John Delberto. And we used to have the priest pass out. And we had to stop it there because the ladies were like unzipping his zipper. They were like, all these things. But
The nun and the priest really went through it, man. They really did. No matter what, it was like they were afraid of Madeline Monroe,
That's the exact experience I had. When I played Terry, I got harassed and felt up and grabbed and squeezed and everything. And as Maddie, nobody except Nunzio would touch me. Nobody would touch me. No, everyone would come up and touch
I was only acting.
Of course.
well, I do not think that this show would have had the run that it had, and I don't think that it would have had kind of the freedom to be what it is if it hadn't been for Joe. And I really wanted Mark to be on here because I know, Mark, that you were a huge part of pushing him to do this.
We were just adventurers, you know what I mean? And we went into the show and Joe was in it, so we saw like, it was like, it's good, Joe, it's good, right? And the simplicity of it, like, we're just putting on a show.
You can't resist when somebody says that to you, Joe. Okay.
But to say this one thing, which is very true, is Joe was a hands-off producer. His ego wasn't, I have to be in charge of this. You know what I mean? He just was in charge of it, And so when you say it allowed creativity, he got out of the way of that, and said, I'm going to take care of my end, marketing, publicity, getting celebrities. I mean, the whole angle of like, I got to sell tickets. That's the hardest part of the show,
I don't think that there was ever a total appreciation for the fact that what Joe did was hand it over to the creators. Do you know what I mean? To really say, I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm going to try to get the show to run as long as it can. But I think it takes a brave producer to step aside and to let the creators go. And you would come back sometimes and you'd say, hey, listen, you want to fire that person? You hired them. You fired them.
I'm not.
Well, it made you think. It made you think like.
Joe never fired anybody. I mean, and I stick to that philosophy. I've never fired anybody, and they all should be fired. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's part of the business. We don't have it in our hearts to do it.
Yeah.
Joe's a very caring person, genuinely right to his heart, and that really is helpful in these situations.
Well, absolutely. Absolutely, Mark. And I don't think that the show would have had the heart that it had if it hadn't had a producer like Joe. I mean, I think the understanding of that comes sometimes many years later because you oftentimes don't appreciate what you have. But really, it would not have been what it is if you hadn't been there. And I appreciate that, Joe. I really do.
Thank you. Like I said, I just kind of stayed out of the way, and I listened to people around me like Saul and Leonard. I mean, Leonard was a good buffer for a lot
Yeah.
of the
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
He was Mr. No. He was
Yes,
Mr. No.
he's the no guy.
Yeah,
Well, not to come to ask me anything, just go to Leonard.
No, because you would call Leonard, you'd say, listen, I know you're going to say no, but I want you to listen to me first.
Right.
Okay, I'll listen, Larry.
Even there, I remember it was so fun because I was never a producer of that show, but because I was Joe's best friend, I was able, hey, I'd walk into anybody's office and have a conversation. Like, at an audition. Oh, let me say hi to Leonard. Okay, hey, Leonard, I know you're not doing anything. Let me spend 20 minutes with you. You know what I mean? And like, okay, Mark. But really beautiful people. And I think that, again, starts at the top,
It was people that you could talk to them. Jim Hanna. You know what I mean? Jim, who was a strange bird, but is there doing his thing, and
Gus,
Gus.
finding Gus and finding
yeah.
Gus. I mean, Gus at Gus's place is one of the greatest guys in the world, right?
Sure
and
is.
we were all in cahoots, and he was with Joe, and Joe elicited that kind of loyalty from him, and vice versa. So it was really special.
I see Gus again. I stay in touch with Gus. I see him when I'm in New York. We get together. He knows all about everything as much as we do. He was right there from the very beginning.
Oh, he was. I mean, he would give me direction. He would say, "Yeah, this new Donna, she can't." I'm like, okay, Gus. He was right. Because he was,
Well, he'd have people in his restaurant after the show, and he'd have, Scott Bilecki, Patrick Buckley, who they only talk at a fucking decibel level that could stop a truck. You know what I mean? It's like, and Gus, it's like, oh God, what he put up with. But it was great to be able to go downstairs and have a place to hang. It was really fun.
It continued the show in a weird way. Yeah, it really did. Well, listen, thank you both so much for being here. Mark, always appreciate seeing you. And
Always appreciate it.
yeah, and Joe, let's do some more of these. I'd really like to go a little bit more in depth with you about Los Angeles. Thank you so much for everything that you've done in the past. And
Listen, I wanted to live forever. I wanted to outlive all of us. I still want to do a documentary. I'd still like to do another remake of the show. You know what I mean? It's a movie. So, I mean, I dream about these things. It's always my baby, just like it is yours.
Well, thank you both very much. And we will see you soon again in Tony and Tina. So.
Nice to see all you guys, and Mark, you too.
Love to see your faces. Yeah, I want to play Nunzio, not Uncle Louie, and I'm close. You know what I mean? So I don't think
you got a while too. You got a while, Mark. You got a while.
No, thanks. Hey, yeah, Mark, you gonna come up? We got a room. It's got 700 people in it. Can you do it? Yeah. Jesus Christ.
In this episode's Pictures for the Album segment, Larry chats with Ronnie Marmo. Enjoy.
Ronnie Marmo, how was life for you?
Life is great. I'm out here in Los Angeles. I've been out here since '99. I came out to California right after I left the tour of Tony and Tina's, and I've been out here ever since. And I go back east pretty much every couple of months, so it's still very much a part of my life. But the sunshine helps, The only role I haven't played yet, which I can't wait to tell you my journey, but the only role I haven't played is Nunzio, and I think I'm the appropriate age.
You would be a fantastic Nunzio.
That's the only role I haven't played. Oh, and Uncle Louie, which,
Yeah, well, that's coming.
Oh, yeah, 40 years, hopefully, from now, if I'm still here.
So where did you begin?
My first relationship with TNT was, I remember, so in '95, my mother passed away, a young woman. She was 53. I was 24. I wasn't an actor yet. I didn't know what I was going to do, honestly, Larry. A lot of people don't know this, but I dropped out of school in 8th grade. I never went to high school.
Wow.
And I had no idea what I was going to do in my life. And my mom and I used to go see these plays in Edison Valley Playhouse in New Jersey. And a friend of mine was in them, and I was like, oh my God, he's amazing. How does he do it getting up in front of all those people? And long story short, every time we'd leave, my mother'd say, look at you, you're beaming. You should do this. I could never do it. I could never do it. So my mother passes away young. So I called this guy, Pat Carpenter, who was in the plays. And it was funny because I thought he was a brilliant actor, and I come to find out later that he was just doing community theater. He was great, but I just looked up to him so much. So I asked him, I said, Pat, if there's an opportunity for a tryout, I didn't even know it was called an audition because I was a sports guy. So I'm like, if there's a tryout, I'd like to try out for a play.
Yeah.
So long story short, he told me about the tryout. I went in, I got the part. I couldn't believe it. Got my first yes, and off it went. And so I did that for about a year and a half, and I fell in love with it. One day there was an audition for Tony and Tina's wedding in Philadelphia. And of course, I knew about Tony and Tina's wedding. And I was like, if I could just get in that show, $30 a performance, this would be life-changing, you know?
Yes.
And so I auditioned, and this was, I think, the summer of, I guess it'd be 97, because 98 I went on the road with you guys. 97 I auditioned, and I got the role of Dominic, and that was fun. And before long, I was playing Tony, and
Yeah.
that was great. And I ran there for 9 months.
Yeah, you could play so many characters.
Yeah, it was good. And then, so what happened was with TNT, it was such an important show for me and gave me so much validation, and it was just great. And so $30 a show, I would drive back and forth 2 hours to the show every night. And then I auditioned for you. I came in, there was an audition in Midtown in Manhattan, and it was for the tour. I come to find out Joe Dallo moved from Barry to Michael Just, and so you needed a Barry. And you guys hired me to do that and work across Stephanie, who I love, you know.
Oh, she's a nut.
She's a total nut, and she's one of the funniest human beings in the world.
She really is.
She
is.
makes me laugh. So I came and I did that, and I played Barry for you guys on the national tour, Tony understudy. I went on a bunch of times for Don Conti, and what an experience doing 8 shows a week. It was a lot, you know. It was really quite an experience to.
So you began in Louisville then?
No, I came in the next leg. I guess Joe was Barry in Louisville, and then when you guys got to Cincinnati, there was a little shift, and that's when I joined.
Okay.
I joined it with Vinny Palumbo. He was my roommate, chasing me around with Windex.
I'm sorry.
Yes. He would chase me around the house. Ronnie, I made dinner for you. Get over here and eat. Then he would chase me with Windex, which is another story. So I did that show for, I guess, about 6 months. I didn't get to finish the tour. And then in January of 99, I came out to LA. And as soon as I got here, it was funny. My relationship with Nancy Casaro is interesting because I didn't know her. I just knew her name.
Yeah.
And then one day I'm at an audition for a movie called Deuces Wild, which we both ended up doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I see her name right before my name in the sign up. And I go, Nancy Casaro, is somebody here named Nancy Casaro? She goes, I go, oh my God, thank you for the job the last couple of years. You know, I love you. Thank you. And so, long story short, LA happened at the Henry Fonda.
Yeah, that was a beautiful show too.
I know. And they called me. And I remember when I joined that cast, they were like, who do you want to play? And I literally was kind of burnt out, 8 shows a week on the road. I was like, I want to play Sal. They go, what? I go, I want to be Sal. And they go, okay. So Larry, I would grease my hair to the side like a real creepo. I'd put white flakes in my hair like I had dandruff. And I would walk around with the camera and I would look at you and I'd take a picture and I'd go, every shot, I'd go, good picture. I would talk to myself, good picture. And walk away, really subtle, good picture. People would go ballistic. So I played Sal for 6 months, whatever that was. And it was what a dream. And I met so many beautiful people. And then the only other thing I did with TNT, just to catch you all the way up, was I think Nancy or you, somebody called me and there was some sort of issue in Vegas and
Yes. Yeah.
you needed some help there. And Nancy's like, will you come and
Yeah.
jump in?
Yeah.
Nancy said, who do you want to play? You could play literally anybody. And I go, Vinnie Black, because I want to say that I played everybody. She goes, okay. So I went there and I played Vinnie Black for a couple of weeks or whatever. I don't remember. And that was my history with the show. And I honestly can say I've never been a part of something that like all these relationships are still such a big part of my life. Not like you do a show and you stay in touch. Like these people, Kelly Sinante, I mean, I love that woman, you know?
Absolutely.
I mean, I love her and I would do anything for her. And there are a lot of people like that.
And
I owe so much to TNT. A lot of people, they do a show for a while and they go, you know, that was then. And I'm like, no, it really was a foundation for me to Get good at this. So thank you for saying yes to me and for the
You're welcome.
And look, it's the gift that keeps on giving.
It is.
And so many people have created beyond TNT on projects because of the, TNT. It's just so important. And it's very rare a show comes along that so many people have a real ownership of and go, no, that I was in that show. I did.
I'm really happy to be revisiting people who have a connection to this show and to my life. Tony and Tina's wedding has been very special, of course, for me and to me. And I'm happy to know you, Ronnie.
You too, Larry. I was so thrilled when I heard you were doing this because I'm like,
Yeah.
what a smart thing to bring everybody back together in some way. Maybe there's a reunion in the future.
I hope so. I hope so, because everybody asked for that. Thank you, Ronnie.
Thanks, Larry.
Always a pleasure.
Tony and Tina's Wedding, Creating a Theater Tribe is a production of Virtual Arts. If you like this episode, please make sure to like, subscribe, and give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And join us over on Instagram to see photos and archival materials related to the episodes. Join us next time for our chat with Tony and Tina's tour director, Tony Loria.